I want to kind of leave this really, really positive legacy behind my name. And I mean, like, so I'm an ambassador now for Spina Bifida Ireland. Obviously, my first cousin Mary lives with the condition. There are hundreds of people, like families and children and adults all over Ireland that suffer with the condition and need help. And, I've seen, I don't know, I'm talking for Ireland, but I think that it could be the same in a lot of other countries. The government would make a lot of cuts to the funding for the charity and stuff like that. Money would go other places, etc., etc. And it's kind of irrelevant, but it would also make you want to do more. So kind of over the last 6 years, we've managed, me and my team have managed to raise about €300,000 for Spina Bifida Hydrocephalus Ireland. I mean, in the 24 marathons alone, we raised €140,000, and that's had a huge impact.
That's massive, yeah.
To those families around the country, and it's just really good to see. I mean, I'm sometimes I can get caught up in the day-to-day stuff, and I'm just so busy doing stuff and trying to stay on top and catch up. And then you get a picture from this lady who is in Dublin, and her daughter just got a new wheelchair because you ran 24 marathons, 24 days from Ireland and raised €140,000. You know what I mean? And like that's for me, that's special. That's kind of why I feel like. I'm in it the minute the 24 marathons finished. I was like, I'm going again. I don't know what it is, but I'm going again.
Yeah.
So I love what I do, and the fact I get to help people, it makes me feel pretty good. My favorite little saying is, I think like the days when I'm sore and tired, and we all are, and it's cold and wet and raining, and like it's just I get to run. I don't have to go out and run. I get to do it because the people I'm representing and doing this stuff for, they would probably give anything. They'd give anything to go out for a run, So some days I just suck it up and do it because I'm very blessed to be able to do it.
Welcome to the Ultra Running Summit Series. I'm your host, Eric, and my guest today is Shane Finn from Ireland. Shane is a 25-year-old endurance athlete and entrepreneur based and living in the southwest corner of Ireland. His endurance life started at age 17, where he began running across Ireland over 12 days in 2014. Then he ran 24 marathons in 24 days in the summer of 2017 in support of spina bifida research, and he is now preparing to run an ultra and cycle across America in 36 days. Shane, that's incredible. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good, Eric. Pretty good. Thanks very much for having me on.
Yeah. It's great to have you here, man. Can you tell me sort of what sparked your original decision to run across Ireland in 12 days?
Yeah, it's a bit of a long story, but I'm going to try and keep it short if I can, and hopefully everybody can understand my Irish accent. It's not that bad, but it's I can sometimes go off a little bit of a tangent, so feel free to call me back in if you need to. But I guess my kind of introduction to endurance sports was a little bit different to your normal endurance, like ultra endurance athlete. I grew up, would have played a lot of sports. I was quite a sporty kid, like football, soccer, rugby. Like I even played golf competitively. Like I did everything. So I loved being outside. I loved training and everything. And I turned 17, and I just randomly one day decided out of nowhere I was going to do the Dingle Marathon. So Dingle is nestled down in the southwest coast of Ireland. It's a tiny little town, and the Dingle Marathon route takes in the whole peninsula, so it's a really, really beautiful route. And I decided I was going to do that for Spina Bifida Ireland. And my reasoning for that is that my first cousin Mary actually lives with the condition. She's 33 years old. Life is extremely difficult for her, and even from a young age of just 17, I was quite aware of that. So I just said, I wanted to do something. She was in my family, and I wanted to try and make a difference. So I did it. Raised about €8,000, and that just completely sparked something inside me and ignited a fire. 2 years later, I ran from Dublin to Dingle, which is on the opposite side of the country, over 12 days. We raised €35,000, and then obviously that carried on to 24, which is a whole other story. But I guess to answer your question, my cousin Mary, who suffers with spina bifida, was my main trigger, my main motivation to get into the kind of endurance stuff.
Wow, that's such a heartfelt story too that goes along with it. I mean, a lot of people, they sign up for their first race and it's in support of a a charity of some kind, and they might do some fundraising for it, but you really have that emotional connection right from square one.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? When you're, I even like, because it's fresh in my memory, like running like 24 this summer was, like day 19. Like I remember my right shoulder just packed in, and you know what? Part of me was extremely upset, but part of me was just so happy it was not my legs. It was really weird, but I was at that day finished, and I was like, you know what? This is why I'm here. The people I'm doing this for can't use their arms or their legs, so it really gives you that extra bit of like motivation when you need. I don't even like the word motivation, but like when you're going through tough times out there, like running days after days after days, I think your why is probably your most powerful asset, and if that's powerful enough, I think it'll get you through anything.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah,
Focusing on the why is like the best formula for success, because then you can sort of use that to channel any reserve energy that you have, like anything that's
100%.
left in the body.
I agree. There's times where, and I know a lot of ultra endurance athletes will agree that there's only so much training that you can do. You can only get to a certain level of aerobic fitness. It can always be better, but there's no definite point, and after that it's just connecting your mind and your body, and if you can make that connection, well then you got it.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of mental training practices then, like meditation or anything like that?
I have a few little techniques I use, and I haven't kind of gone whole into the whole meditation stuff yet. I do a lot of training on my own, and I don't get me wrong, I love training with people, and I'm a very social guy anyway, but I love training on my own. In Ireland, we just chatted before the show started about the weather, comparing the weather in both our locations. The weather in Ireland, usually when I'm doing a lot of my long stuff, is usually quite bad. It's dark quite early till 8, 9 a.m. It's dark again at 5. You're out on your own. You're in the back roads around the countryside in Ireland, and it's just like you take that, and then nobody sees you doing that. But then when I take on one of these events, you got thousands of people watching. There's cameras everywhere, but they don't see what you did 6 months ago, in the rain and the cold and in the hills. So for me, that's what keeps me mentally strong. You know what I mean? And even during the events, I would use little techniques like that. Like I have this strange thing I can do. I can kind of flood my body with adrenaline, like 20 miles into a marathon. It's really strange. I would just like I would think of the charity and my cousin and the kids in the charity and the people we've met through the whole event and stuff like that. So it's kind of I guess that's answers a little bit different for everyone, but that would be my two main topics.
Yeah, I can completely relate. Like I train alone mostly too, just out of convenience. Like I'm the kind of person who just goes at a moment's notice, so it just I can't always plan to meet with a running club and stuff like that. But
sure,
for sure, there's tons of meditative aspects of running alone and being alone, especially like in sort of struggling conditions where you are fighting off the weather and the cold and the darkness. And that must do wonders to build mental fortitude. Do you train with music, or do you usually run without music? Like, what does that do for your state of mind?
Yeah, interesting. I like to mix it up. So if I'm doing I'm not currently right now technically training for any ultra crazy stuff. So I'm doing a little, like I'm training for an Ironman at the moment. So I'm doing a little bit of I'm adding in a little bit of speed work. I'm adding in some tempo stuff. So if I'm on the track or if I'm doing some repeats or something like that, I'm doing that without music. But and just as well, I don't know what it's like for you guys in Vancouver, but biking here is kind of dangerous. So it's the roads are quite narrow, very windy. You can just imagine typical Irish countryside. So music on the bike is a big no-no, just for safety reasons. But on a long run, I would bring music, or I would listen to a podcast or audiobook. But I prefer music because it kind of keeps you upbeat and just keeps your legs turning over. So I like music when I'm doing my long run. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Do you ever do like podcasts or audiobooks or anything like that? Or
yeah, Mostly just music. If I'm on the turbo train or indoors, I like to podcast. There's one in particular I love. It's called the Kona Edge. So it's by a guy in Australia, I believe. He's just a normal everyday guy, and it's his dream to get the Ironman World Championships in Kona. And his whole podcast is based on interviewing people, age group athletes, normal everyday people who've gotten to Kona and what they did. It's really, each episode is about 10 minutes long, and I just like it because it's just so cool, the different things that people do, and the way that nobody's the same, so I kind of like that.
Yeah, for all qualifying events like that, like UTMB and the World Ironman competition, there's so many different paths people can take from all over the world, and there's all of these like huge array of qualifying races that everyone just gets such a unique story in that way.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And this is your second Ironman, is that correct, that you're doing?
This will be my fourth, actually. This is my fourth Ironman Lake Placid. Yeah, so I love traveling. As busy and all as I am, I love to travel. So I use my Ironmans to travel. I've done Ironman Melbourne, Barcelona. I've done one here in Ireland, and now I'm heading to Lake Placid. I've been to New York City like 6 times, but Lake Placid is obviously way upstate New York, so it's supposed to be a really, really nice place, nice race, lovely people. So I'm just looking forward to the race, obviously, but I'm looking forward to just heading off on my own for 10 days with my bike and just seeing what it's all about.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah. I wish I could line something like that up for my summer too, like a long hike, a long throughout hiking trail. Do you like when you travel, you bring just one bike, or what's like the standard?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I actually was exchanging emails with a bike store in Lake Placid yesterday. So I just from experience, the airline companies are not the best for minding your bikes. They just want to move the stuff and go. And I've never had my bike damaged, but when you get to kind of this level, this Ironman level, you've got your TT bike and your aero wheels and your bike helmet, and so I've made the decision. I'm gonna rent a set of wheels in Lake Placid and just bring my bike frame. I just get my set of race wheels there. Save me, I don't want to bring all my stuff and then realize that one of my spokes was broken on flight. Yeah. So I'll get there early, and maybe a week beforehand I'll get the wheels on. I'll ride every day, make sure they're comfy, and off I go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's quite the bike is always kind of what's held me back from trying out an Ironman or like putting it on my to-do list. When I moved out to the West Coast here, I didn't bring a bike with me, and it would be super convenient. But that's the element I think that's missing for a lot of people.
Yeah, I got into Ironman as well, completely by accident. It was never really. I think it was after when I ran from Dublin to my hometown Dingle. My friend, a really close friend of mine, moved to Melbourne. And we just chatted on the phone about 2 days after I finished that ultra run. And he was like, you should come out and do the Ironman. I was like, okay. And to be honest, what happened was I got injured doing like a 5K about 2 weeks after the 12 marathons.
Okay.
Not during the run, but of course doing a fun run 5K afterwards. I got injured and I couldn't really run that much. So I started cycling a lot, loved it, and signed up for the Ironman. I actually couldn't swim. So I went to my local pool, and I remember it's like a 25-meter pool. I did like 4 lengths and I nearly died, so that was like a challenge for me. But I was excited because I was like, I'm really bad at this, but I want to do it. So it gave me something to work on. And in turn, and I speak about it quite a lot, how getting into Ironman has made me a better runner. It's made me a fitter athlete all around. I've learned, one thing it's taught me is more kind of, I go, and the word is kind of thrown around a lot, but it's more kind of like self-awareness in my body as an athlete, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So for example, then like sticking to like a rigid, like structured 6-day-a-week running plan, I'll run hard like 2 days a week, one easy run. But if I'm not feeling like the best, or if I'm not, if my legs are heavy or if my calves are tight, instead of going out for a run, I'll hit the turbo trainer, or I'll go to the pool, or I'll go on my bike. So I'm still training, but I'm still getting fitter and stronger. But I'm not just consistently loading my legs and things like that. And I've cut my rate of injury in probably by about 70% since I started doing Ironman. So it's it's kind of cool, and it works for me.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Ironman almost found you. Like you didn't really
Yeah,
seek it out.
yeah, you could say that, I guess. Yeah, you could say that. I meant traveling to Melbourne. I think on a map for my first Ironman, Melbourne was the furthest one away I could have gone
Mm.
from my house. I mean, I think Hawaii was probably closer, but it was like a 24-hour flight. But I mean, I went there for 10 days. I just had a blast. It was the best. Like the people over there, like there's a lot of Irish people in Australia,
Mm.
so it was really cool. And I just really enjoyed it. I remember crossing the finish line, and like this guy right before me crossed, and he was like 66, and I was like, "Oh my God, you're a beast!" I was like a third of his age when I did it, and he was just so fresh, and I was like, when I grow up, I want to be like you. So
Yeah.
it's really cool. Came home. Didn't do one then for a year. Was kind of focusing on my business and stuff. So then obviously the 24 marathons came around. Did Ironman Barcelona before the 24 marathons, kind of in preparation, but I still enjoyed it. And then, I always wanted to do one in the States, so I kind of earmarked Lake Placid for this summer.
That sounds like a really cool event, and I wish you the best of luck in it too.
Thank you.
Do you think you're born with a purpose, or do you think it's something you discover for yourself? Like with running, it's something you made the choice for, but then with triathlon training, it just kind of had a natural progression into your life. Do you think
Mm.
your purpose and your greater purpose, for that matter, is something you choose?
Yeah, it's funny. I think about this a lot and like quite deeply. So basically, like just a quick like background. I so I was always a really really quiet kid. I was very shy, self conscious, very low confidence. I would have played a lot of team sports, but now the reason I look back at that is because I was just afraid to do anything on my own because I was uncomfortable in a team sport environment. I attempted to go to college and it failed miserably. I quit. I dropped out after 9 weeks, I think. I just hated it, and that didn't do my confidence very well either. But straight after that, I decided to run my first marathon, and that literally changed my life. And that might be like a bit of a dramatic statement, but one thing it did help me do was it helped me realize that hold on, you can actually achieve something for yourself and be proud of something for yourself, but B, which is even cooler, you get to help other people. And that was the big thing for me. So I was like, as that went on, I was like, okay, maybe we can do another one and another one. Then things snowballed, obviously. But what I realized was, and as the ultra events got bigger and tougher, and we raised more money, and I was like, you know what, this is really cool. And it just turned me into kind of a different person. I was being myself rather than trying to be fitting in with everybody, and running was kind of my thing. So when I went through that phase of being the quiet kid and dropping out of college and not having enough confidence, blah blah blah, running was there. So running was my thing that I
Mm-hmm.
went to, and it kind of forged me, I guess, into the guy I am today. And it's funny, I speak in schools a lot. So we'd have what we call secondary schools in Ireland would be like a high school. And I would talk to the older kids in the high schools quite a lot. And somebody asked me the other day, they were like, how did you get, like, because I told them, I was like, right now, I was like, I've got a TV interview tomorrow and next week. And they were like, how did you get, I was just like, just being myself. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
we're surrounded, like, at the moment we're constantly watching what other people are doing, fascinated by other people. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what? We kind of forget about ourselves. So I just try be myself. Running's my thing. I'm so glad I found it. And if I didn't find it, I'm not too sure what I'd be doing right now. So I believe, like, it's funny because I say my purpose is to help other people, and I get to do that through my running and through, like, I co-own a training facility here in my little hometown. So we help people every day, and I get to do it through my running too. So I truly believe that's what my purpose is, and it's kind of cool, and I'm very grateful I kind of found that, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic too what you're doing, and just the ability you have to empower a small community like that. Like I know
Yeah.
there's tons and tons of towns here in Canada that they're on their last legs, like they used to be a railway town where the train would go through, and there's only a few hundred people that live there, and
Yeah.
they need things like that to pick them up. They need sort of heroes and local people to champion the cause and get the people there moving and get things going in town again.
Yeah, it's interesting. We like Dingle. If anybody's ever heard of it, it's quite a famous little town. We would have maybe 1,200 people living here. If you wouldn't find a lot of people in their mid to early 20s here. A lot of people are in the cities and they're in universities, which is
Hmm.
perfectly normal. A lot of Irish people my age would immigrate to Canada or to New Zealand or Australia. So me and my business partner, we made the decision that we were going to change. We're going to set up our own business. Being a tourist town, we tried to utilize that, and it was at the start it was difficult. It was we had our struggles and whatnot, but we're kind of getting over that now, and we're kind of we've set up, and we're enjoying it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, like you have that split in age gaps, right? Like you have sort of lots of kids and high school students, and then you have the
Yeah,
gap of the young adults, and then there's like the older community.
yeah, it's really interesting. Like if you sit and watch what we do every day, I know a lot of facility. I would obviously travel to the States a lot. I would visit facilities over there, and they're like baseball only, or strength only, or youth athlete only. So, for example, today, like we would have worked with a normal fitness class at 6:30, which would be your moms, your dads, all that kind of stuff up early. 9 o'clock, we had a group of active 55s in, which would be older folks.
Hmm.
4:15 right now, we have a group of young kids in, but at 3 o'clock, we had a group of kids with special needs in from their school. So it's just such a broad. We work with such a broad range of people, and it's really cool because it keeps it really interesting for us too.
Yeah, I can imagine. Is there, do you do nutrition or mostly just training?
We do a lot of nutrition. I work with a guy, pretty well known actually all over the world. His name is Barry Murray. He's a very very top ultra runner himself.
Hmm.
He's won quite a famous race here in Ireland called the Kerry Way Ultra. It's a 200k ultra marathon non-stop through mountains and all kind of crazy places. He's won a lot of races in Italy and stuff. So he's actually based here, not too far from here.
Oh,
So
wow.
I do a lot of work with him. Really interesting guy. So we train together and stuff like that. So he's kind of helping me dial in on my nutrition, and I obviously we would pass a lot of that on to our clients and our members too.
What do you eat on race day? Like, what are your go-tos at the aid stations? What do you like to have in training? Is essentials for
Yeah.
you?
If you asked me this question 12 months ago, I would have given you a completely different answer. I was a big carb guy a couple of months ago, and now like I said, working with Barry. I'm kind of jumping into the whole fat adaptation world.
Right, right. The
It
ketogenics.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that he will disagree, and he will say that it's not ketogenic. Basically, what I'm doing is I would now consume the majority of my carbs post training. Um, so I remember when I started talking and working with Barry first, I was like, oh God, so I can't have pizza and beer with the guys on a Saturday or a Sunday or Friday night. And he was like, no, you can, but just you have to train beforehand. So it's just about timing my carbs properly.
Okay.
Um, and tapping into that making my body more efficient, and tapping into that massive fat reserve that we have in our body,
Hmm.
and just utilizing that as best I can. And I've found I'm doing it 7 months now. I mean, I can go 4 hours on the bike in the morning with just a coffee and water, and it's just I'm feeling so much better. I've noticed one thing which is really cool is my recovery is so much better than what it was last year.
Hmm.
Coming back from long runs and stuff like that, just consuming my carbohydrates post training, I just feel my recovery is I would keep a little training diary, so I feel like it's definitely much better. Don't get me wrong, at the start it's not something you can change and you say, oh, Friday I'm going to become fat adapted. It's something you got to work on over time. And believe me, there were days where I was 3k into a 20k run and I was like, I'm going to die, so it takes some time. But I think he's been living this kind of lifestyle 9 years now, and I'm 7 months, so it's kind of you know it's a kind of another little journey of discovery. I guess the reason I wanted to looked for his help because, for example, I ran 24 marathons, 24 days around Ireland with no supplements or no gels, none of this kind of fancy
Oh,
stuff. It was all
wow.
all food, just food, complete food. That was it.
Okay.
And then a couple months beforehand, I went out and I raced Ironman Barcelona, and I went for it. And 5 miles into the Ironman, everything just blew up. I walked probably the majority of the Ironman after that,
Oh, cool.
and I was like, I was probably in better physical shape going into that one race. And he was like, it's just your nutrition. You know, I followed everything to a T. I was, you know, every single gram, every single spoonful of isotonic drink was in my bottles and gels at all the right times. And I still shut down, you know. And then I run for 24 days nonstop around Ireland. I don't get a single cramp, but no injuries, no tummy problems. And I'm like, what's up here, you know? So it was kind of cool, but I was like, you know, all right, I've gotten to this level of fitness, but there's also this secondary thing, which is my nutrition game, that I've probably unlocked maybe 20% of what I can actually do. And I realize now that for the ultra stuff, and I actually doing a mountain ultra marathon here in a couple of weeks, you know, it's nutrition is such a big part of it. And I know that I know people say, well, obviously, but no, it is huge. Like, it is probably just as important as training, I think, especially when you get into the ultra stuff. Yeah. So, like, for example, like my first test was a hilly half marathon a couple of weeks ago, right before Christmas. And you know, I just had my I had steak and a little bit of vegetables the night before. I woke up in the morning, I had a coffee with some coconut oil, and that was it. Off I went, raced a half marathon. I think I did 1:29, and it was a really hilly course, and I felt fine. I felt the day afterwards, felt like I was fine. No major problems. I felt okay. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to take a lot of these principles into the Ironman in a couple of months and see how it goes there too.
Right on. So you have like just a coffee and a little bit of coconut oil before like a half marathon run, and then you eat all of your carbs, proteins, fats, everything post run?
Yeah, mainly carbohydrates. I found that when you consume carbohydrates and fats together, me personally, my digestive system is like, we hate you. So I just find that a carb heavy meal afterwards would be. Now there's also the case, like if somebody might say, all right, what if you train twice a day? I'm like, yeah, I train twice a day sometimes, so I would consume my carbs after the harder of the two sessions.
Okay.
So if I swim 3K in the morning and I do a track session by night, like, the track session is the harder session for me. That's what I feel. So I would consume my carbs after the track session.
Okay.
You know, so it just takes time. And I'm sure, like, as we just spoke about with training, there's probably 3 different approaches, 4 or 5 different approaches you could take by doing this. But I'm taking it really slowly because I want to make the change. I want them to kind of be part of my lifestyle rather than just trying to constantly fight it and say, oh, I'd rather have a bowl of oats for breakfast rather than like half an avocado and some eggs. You know what I mean? So it's especially in like the cold winter's morning, I found it kind of tough. You know what I mean? You just like something warm and something kind of like that'll fill you up instead of having like half an avocado with some nuts and an egg. You know? So it's kind of but I'm thinking I'm getting over that now.
Yeah. The body adapts, right? Like, you get used to it. And it's funny, I've done a little bit of researching about the whole ketogenic thing, but it's too much for me to wrap my head around at this point. But like you said, it's a journey, right? It's something you can kind of work on over time.
It is. And I mean, the approach that we took with me was so slow. I mean, like, I think I literally made 2 changes in the first 3 weeks with the foods and the timing of the foods and what I was eating at what times and stuff like that. And again, I'm pretty methodical when it comes to that kind of stuff. I would write down how I'm feeling. I started off by doing 20-minute fasted sessions. So I would run for 20 minutes in the morning. I mean, like, no matter how empty you are or how sore or tired you can run for 20 minutes, hopefully. You know what I mean? So I would compare how I felt on Monday to Wednesday to Friday, and just kind of increased it to 25 minutes, you know. So I took it so slow. And you know, I think I'm up to like a 2-hour run, kind of 4-hour bike now without anything, only like a coffee, and then but also I have a little kind of like this almond butter dark chocolate bar in my back pocket just in case in case something I blow up or something blows up in me, I don't know. So just in case, you know.
So that's the emergency fuel. Okay, cool.
Yeah, just in case.
So when you had your meltdown in Barcelona, or when you said your body like locked up on you at that Ironman, would you say that's your biggest like crash that you've ever had, or your biggest like
yeah
I mean, call it?
Oh god, that was like an atomic bomb bonk. Like that was just like somebody strapped 2 metal rods to my two legs, and I couldn't move. I was in the typical Ironman shuffle,
Yeah.
but I was, I think instead of running like a 3:45, 3:40 Ironman marathon, I think I ran like 4:25 or 4:30. I was like, it was painful.
Yeah.
I finished that. Finished, obviously. My recovery after that I was sore. I still remember getting up about 8 mornings after a race and I was still sore. So I was
Mm.
like, there's something wrong here. This is something off. And I knew, I just, in my head, I knew it was my food. I don't know why. I even went to my doctor, got my bloods done. No, he said, you're fine. I was like, ah. I was like, I kind of wanted him to find something,
Yeah.
But no, I just put it down as my food. And I mean, like, I'm pretty sure that that's not going to happen in Lake Placid. And hopefully it won't happen now after saying it. But it's just, I think what I was just loading up. It was just all fast sugars. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
care. Like you read a gel wrapper, it's like, oh, 25 grams of carbs. It's sugar. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So your body, we go through these ups and downs, and we can only store about 90 to, depending how efficient you are, like 100 minutes worth of glycogen in our bodies. And
Hmm.
when that's gone, you're in the red. You're just dipping into this. You have to keep topping up and keep topping up. I think in the end, my body was just like, no, we've had enough.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was passing aid stations. I was taking Coke. I was taking Red Bull. I was taking sweets off children. I was taking
Yeah.
everything. You know what I mean? So I don't want that to happen anymore. So and it just, I don't know, like racing, it just, I don't feel good. Taking all these gels and supplements, and I go out for a hill run. I'm looking at the hill right now. I run for 2 hours with just a little water bottle, and I feel great.
Hmm.
So it's yeah, look, I mean, I'm excited. Maybe I can come back on the show again in a year or 2 years and give you an update on how it's going, because I'll probably have a better idea then, so.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, only time will tell. And by the sounds of it, your coach or the guy you're basing it off of, if he's been doing that diet for 9 years, then it's got to have some merit to it.
Yeah, and he's performing at the very, very top of the ultra scene, so he's he knows what he's talking about. I'm pretty sure.
It is funny though to me
Yeah.
how like a lot of ultra races they do cater to these like extreme amazing athletes, but then at the same time at the aid stations they have like M&Ms and like Coke, and it's just
Yeah.
it's such a weird, it's ironic in a way. I couldn't believe it the first time I saw it, but
It is. It's funny. One of the things, I got a lot of questions. I actually got asked this question live on TV and was not expecting it. They kind of took it out of context a little bit. So I did a live video blog during the 24 marathons every single night, just
mhm,
an update on how the day went, all that kind of stuff. I actually removed meat from my diet for the 24 days,
interesting.
and I removed it probably 4 days before I started. For me personally, I just felt better.
Mhm,
My digestion was better. I could absorb, like I wasn't feeling so much bloated after eating bigger meals after training. Like that was completely personal. Nobody told me to do that. I just figured it out for myself. So people ask me why, oh my God, like why don't you eat meat? I was like, I eat meat. I just didn't eat it during the 24 days.
mhm,
I just feel like I've had a big piece of red meat. Like we've got beautiful steak here in Ireland. If I had a big piece of red meat, I would just feel like kind of heavy. And you wake up the next morning, train again, and it's like still there. And it's
mhm,
just I just didn't feel efficient. So what I did 3 like big training weekends before the 24 marathons in about a 6 week period. It would be marathon Friday, marathon Saturday, 20 miles Sunday, and 18 miles Monday, and I would eat a different style of meal every night, and I would take notes on how I'd feel the next morning upon waking, because that's exactly what I was going to be facing during 24
mhm.
marathons.
Yeah.
Staying in hotels and stuff. No, you're eating different food. I know it's all similar menu, but it's different food. Like I know it's a
Mhm,
small thing, and this sounds crazy, but sometimes hotels make oats in the morning with water, and some
mhm,
hotels make it with milk. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So I use both. I train with both. So I just tried to, and I just felt better in the mornings that I hadn't eaten meat the night before as my recovery meal, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fish, I had a lot of pastas, pizza, that kind of stuff, and I just felt better. And that was me personally. I wasn't working with Barry before the 24 marathons, so that was a complete another journey of discovery too. And you know what? Look, it worked for me. I don't know. Some other guy might do it tomorrow, and he might eat a lot of meat, and it'll work for him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It just worked well for me.
Yeah, I've read that like just red meat and other meats in general have more heavy metals and minerals in them. So then your body compensates by drinking more water to move through the kidneys. So
Yeah.
I'm not extremely well read on this, but that's another reason I've heard ultra athletes kind of say it slows them down.
I finished and I ate 2 burgers. So like, man, I was just craving red meat by the end of it.
Yeah.
We had a little after party, had this little barbecue, and I ate like 2 full big burgers. I felt so good.
Yeah, after
So
my last race, I did the same. I had a weird, insane craving for turkey sandwiches.
yeah, so it's I think when you deprive yourself of something for so long, you're just thinking about it. I mean, I was running after 20 days. I was seeing cows in the field. I was like,
Yeah.
so. But yeah, look, it works for me, and I think that's one of the things that when people ask me questions or ask me things about training, I was like, you got to figure it out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're following me online or following some guy in South Africa and this is what he does, that doesn't mean that's what you should do. Or just because I do this, that's shouldn't do it either. You got to find out what works best for you.
Yeah.
And just take it from there, and to constantly just keep tweaking it, and yeah, just figure it out.
Yeah, every body's unique, and everyone's body responds differently to different food options. So that's
100%.
that's one of the most amazing things about being alive, right? You get to test out how your whole system works.
I mean, man, I spent not last summer, the summer before, I spent 3 weeks in Thailand, and we traveled all everywhere, like backpacking, walking every day. The only workouts I would do would be at like 6 a.m. because I couldn't sleep. It was so warm.
Mm-hmm.
I'd do like little hit sessions, like body weight, like push-ups, all this kind of stuff. I was eating like chicken stir fries and like salads for breakfast, and I swear to God, I came back from that holiday, I felt so good.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think to be honest, I think Canada, States, Ireland, I think our diets are quite similar. They're very high in like crap, like
Mm-hmm.
bad foods, like additives and that kind of stuff. It's getting big here now.
Mm-hmm.
So I went over there. Everything's fresh. Everything's like there's this tiny little Thai village, and the fisherman literally owns the restaurant on the beach, and it's his fish that he caught that morning, and
Yeah.
it was just so perfect. All the potatoes and the yams and that kind of stuff, they were his from his farm down the street, and it was perfect. I felt so good, and I came back, and then I started eating our food again. I was like, oh God! After 7 days, I was like, oh, I don't feel great.
Yeah.
So it is interesting.
Yeah, there's so much industry involved in it too that they just put whatever they want in food. And
Yeah,
going back to
it's
what you said about the gels too, it's like there's no just those products that they make they're mainly sugar, but then there's some like nutritional, maybe minerals and stuff added to them, but
yeah.
they're essentially like sports sugars.
That is the best way I've ever heard them being described. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So getting back to like ultra running and stuff, what would you say are like your 3 essential or 4 or 5 essential things that you bring with you on race day? Other than proper footwear and the right clothing and stuff like that, what are sort of your go-to things in your pack?
Yeah, I think for me, okay, so I have, obviously everybody drinks water, but I use Noon electrolytes.
Yeah.
I don't know if do you guys have them in Canada too? I guess
Yep.
you probably do. Strawberry lemonade, they're just the best. They're low in sugar, but they taste kind of sweet. Always, again, I know this is a very simple one. I always bring an extra little bit of Vaseline,
Yeah.
just in case I need it. And basically, I know obviously most races you need to have like your foil blanket and your whistle and this kind of stuff. But other than that, I would also include. I would just put in my iPod. I know they're not allowed in most races, but when there's only like 100 of you and the race is like so long, you can just pull it out for a little while and put it in there. I'd always put my iPod in, but I've had it in races and I haven't used it. So it's just, I think it's just a peace of mind that it's there. But yeah,
Yeah.
my Noons, my extra bit of Vaseline if I need it, and my little iPod would be my main things.
Right on. Is there 3 essential habits that you would say you rely on in your training too? Like, what are the essentials for you?
Oh yeah. Okay. So number one for me, and it's one I preach all the time, is it's just consistency.
Hmm.
I would try and not be too hard on myself. I like, again, working. We're crazy busy, and if I'm scheduled to run 10 miles and I can only run 5. That's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay. You still got to run, you still got to
Hmm.
train, you still got fitter today. It's same on the bike, same in the pool. I always just try to do something every day, and if I don't get to physically train, like run or bike or swim, I'm going to do something in the gym. I'll do some mobility work, some flexibility. So always in my head, I just try and get a small bit better every day. That's my number one thing. Then my first point would lead me on to my second point. That would be like listening to my body. I've become a lot better at that over the last kind of 2 years. So when I'm tired, I roll it back like straight away. If I'm to run 4 days in a week and I just feel like crap and I'm tired and I'm not sleeping properly, I will just do a little bit of gym work every day, a little bit of work on the bike, like bring my dog for a walk, that kind of stuff, and just let my body recover, because your body's really smart, and when you get to this kind of stuff, your body gets good at sending you signals, and then if you're good at reading those signals, I think it can really help you like avoid injuries and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
it just gives you a little bit more confidence too.
Yeah, it goes back
When
to
you
that
can
self-awareness thing you said earlier too.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can master that skill, I think, you've got a long life of running, but you've got a long life of enjoyable running, because, we've all gone through the phases where we're training, we just don't feel well. We train anyway, keep pushing, keep pushing. You just feel like you'll feel bad all the time.
Hmm.
So if you can just adjust, listen to your body, do what it wants you to do, and then that's what I've noticed. My biggest change in the last year, to be honest, has been that.
Yeah. And obviously, I guess another daily habit for you would be the cup of coffee before you head out every day,
Oh
right?
man, I'm a big coffee fan. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's my whew, I like my coffee. No, I am up every morning at about 5:40 ish. Usually in the gym for 6:10. And then, we start our stuff from 6:37. So I need get that coffee in every morning.
Yeah.
It's my little 30 minutes to myself in the morning. I would have a bulletproof coffee the odd day if I know if I've got, say, a good few clients in a row, or I might get to eat or something like that. I'd have a bulletproof coffee, but mainly it's just a good quality, like the good stuff, like a big one.
Yeah.
And then it keeps me going.
I used to do the same. Recently, I switched to green tea, but it's one of those things. I'm not sure if it's healthier or what. I'm
Yeah,
just trying it out and seeing how my body responds to it.
yeah. I built up, so like I consume way too much coffee, and I will no problem put my hand up. But I don't drink alcohol, and it's just my thing. I don't drink a
Yeah.
lot of alcohol, but it's just my thing. So I like my coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. To each their own, man. So do you feel like your running and more importantly, like just your being in the world has it helped you change the world and the community you live in and is that your big picture is changing the world?
Yeah, I think for me, and again, this is a little bit of a cliche answer. Like, for me personally, in my own little world, and I mean that in my head, is I want to kind of leave this really, really positive legacy,
Mm-hmm.
behind my name. And I mean, like, so I'm an ambassador now for Spina Bifida Ireland. Obviously, my first cousin Mary lives with the condition. There are hundreds of people, like families and children and adults all over Ireland, that suffer with the condition and need help. And I've seen, I don't know. Look. I'm talking for Ireland, but I think that it could be the same in a lot of other countries. The government would make a lot of cuts to the funding for the charity and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Money would go other places, etc., etc. And it's kind of irrelevant, but it would also make you want to do more. So, kind of over the last 6 years, we've managed. Me and my team have managed to raise about €300,000 for Spina Bifida Hydrocephalus Ireland. I mean, in the 24 marathons alone, we raised €140,000, and that's had a huge impact
That's massive, yeah.
to those families around the country. And it's just really good to see. I mean, I'm sometimes I can get caught up in the day-to-day stuff, and I'm just so busy doing stuff and trying to stay on top and catch up. And then you get a picture from this lady who is in Dublin, and her daughter just got a new wheelchair because you ran 24 marathons, 24 days around Ireland, and raised €140,000. You know what I mean? And like that's for me, that's special. That's kind of why I feel like I'm in it the minute the 24 marathons finished. I was like, I'm going again. I don't know what it is, but I'm going again.
Yeah.
So I love what I do, and the fact I get to help people, it makes me feel pretty good.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, I want to start organizing something like that for myself too. Like, I envy you for having ran those 24 marathons.
Yeah.
I wish I could do something like that. It's a process. I'll get there.
You'll get there. Yeah, you will.
Yeah, it's wow, you have a really great perspective on life, Shane. It's really incredible to hear what you have to say.
It's changed over the last couple of years, obviously, but I understand now how lucky I am. My favorite little saying is, I think like the days when I'm sore and tired, and we all are, and it's cold and wet and raining, and like it's just I get to run. I don't have to go out and run. I get to do it because the people I'm representing and doing this stuff for, they would probably give anything. They'd give anything to go out for a run. So some days I just suck it up and do it because I'm very blessed to be able to do it.
Yeah. I've made that change too in my life, of changing the I have to do this to I get to do this, because you can do it with anything, right? It's like,
Sure.
I have to go to the grocery store and get my groceries, or it's like I get to choose anything I want.
Yep. We're so lucky.
Exactly. What's if people want to follow your journey and your story, what's the best way they can do that, Shane?
Sure. So I use two main kind of sources, I guess, of social media. Would be my Facebook page, and that's just Shane Finn, and then my Instagram is @_Shane Finn, and then my website is www.shanefinn.com, if you couldn't have guessed it. And so all my details are up there. I'm probably the most active on Facebook and Instagram, to be honest. Again, I just love chatting to people, connecting with people, and having fun. Yeah, I don't get too bogged down. I mean, like, it's a platform. That's it. I don't get caught up in the other stuff. There's a lot of junk out there, but I just do my thing, and I'm having fun.
Right on. Yeah, it's great to follow you on social media, and it's great to have this chat with you, man. I wish you the best of luck in your Ironmans and your upcoming event across the United States. You got all kinds of exciting stuff on the radar by the sounds of it, and you're doing big things in the world and for your community. So kudos to you on that, man.
Thank you so much, Eric. I really appreciate it, man. And hopefully I get to Vancouver someday to join you for a run.
Yeah, definitely. If you're ever in the Pacific Northwest, it would be a lot of fun.
I would love that.
Sounds good. Well, you have yourself a good night. I guess it's
kind of 5:30. I actually need to jump on my turbo trainer now soon to get a bike session done. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, yeah, the sun's just coming up here, so
nice.
enjoy your ride, and I'm gonna go for a run.
Nice one. Have a lovely day, Eric.